Do you believe that you were completely honest and forthcoming with Congress when you asked if there were, quote, any instances where you had not followed the DAO's advice, and you answered no? Yes or no?
Yes, Congresswoman.
Okay. In the letter that you sent to this committee yesterday evening, you claim that you received only oral advice from the DAO, but never saw the leaked memo until after you decided not to recuse yourself. First, it is unbelievable to me that you would not ask for written ethics advice on this particular topic. You admit that you have written ethics advice on other topics, but on this topic you claim you did not see the written memo. Instead, you want us to believe that you only received oral advice and not specific oral advice, but only general advice on, quote, understanding the legal framework, end quote. Did DAO give you advice that is different than what was written in the memoranda?
What you just watched was not a small procedural disagreement. That was a serious ethics confrontation, and in my view, Representative Harriet Hageman did exactly what members of Congress are supposed to do. This video is tense, uncomfortable, and honestly very revealing. Harriet Hageman was not grandstanding. She was not chasing a viral moment. She came prepared with documents, regulations, and direct questions, and what immediately stood out was how often those questions were avoided. When a federal agency chair testifies under oath that they always follow ethics advice, and then a leaked ethics memo suggests otherwise, that is not a technical issue. That is a credibility issue. And when the questioning moved to professional licensing and bar status, things went from concerning to genuinely alarming. Today, we are breaking down what was asked, what was not answered, and why this moment matters far beyond this hearing. This is Congress Lens. I'm Audrey. If you care about accountability, transparency, and real oversight, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications.
Madam Chair, we will now move to 5-minute question. The Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Wyoming.
Like other federal agencies, the FTC has a designated agency ethics official known as DAO. On April 18, 2023, you testified before a subcommittee of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. At the hearing, Chair Rogers asked you, quote, are there any instances where you have not followed the DAO's advice, end quote. You responded no, and you followed up by saying that you, quote, have consulted with the DAO and taken actions that are consistent with the legal statements that DAO has made, end quote. On June 16, 2023, a Bloomberg journalist published a leaked memoranda written by the FTC's DAO analyzing Chair Khan's ability to sit as a judge in the FTC's review of Meta's acquisition of a company called Within. According to the ethics memoranda, the DAO, quote, recommended you recuse to avoid an appearance of partiality concern pursuant to federal ethics regulations. Do you believe that you were completely honest and forthcoming with Congress when you asked if there were, quote, any instances where you had not followed the DAO's advice, and you answered no? Yes or no?
Yes, Congresswoman.
Okay. In the letter that you sent to this committee yesterday evening, you claim that you received only oral advice from the DAO, but never saw the leaked memo until after you decided not to recuse yourself. First, it is unbelievable to me that you would not ask for written ethics advice on this particular topic. You admit that you have written ethics advice on other topics, but on this topic you claim you did not see the written memo. Instead, you want us to believe that you only received oral advice and not specific oral advice, but only general advice on, quote, understanding the legal framework, end quote. Did DAO give you advice that is different than what was written in the memoranda?
Thanks for the question, Congresswoman. So my work before I joined the commission was focused on assessing the power of large technology.
I need you to answer the question that I asked. The question that I asked was, did you receive different oral advice than what was written in the memoranda from DAO? Very simple question.
So I consulted with the ethics official. The ethics official, as was noted in the memo that you cited, although I did not receive that memo, noted that the ultimate framework for instances in which somebody has no financial conflicts of interest.
Did she give you different oral advice than what was in the written memoranda?
The legal framework
yes or no?
is for the employee to themselves determine whether they should or should not recuse.
Did she give you different advice than what was orally than was in the written memoranda? Yes or no?
Congressman, as was noted in the written memoranda, there was no ethics violation created by my participating in the matter.
But you didn't follow the DAO's advice, did you? You could have recused at any time, couldn't you?
I followed the determination that there was no ethics
You could have
violation.
recused at any time, couldn't you?
There was no violation under the ethics laws because I have not a penny in financial stock, not a penny in financial
The
interest.
DAO gave you the
relating
advice
these
to
companies.
recuse, and you did not do so, correct?
Congresswoman, as was noted in the memo, as I noted in the letter.
I'm going to move on since you're not willing to answer my question. I read your 4-page letter, which was nothing more than an affront to your obligations of honesty, integrity, and candor before this tribunal that is owed by every public servant. And I would reference Part 2635 of the Code of Federal Regulations, which describes your ethics standards. I want to note that the ethics standards are actually higher than one owed by lawyers, which brings me to my next point. Do you expect lawyers at the FTC to follow federal ethics rules?
Of course, everybody at the federal
Do you expect lawyers at the FTC to be an active member in good standing of a bar of a U.S. state?
If they're practicing as a lawyer, they need to be in good standing with the relevant bar rules.
I understand that you were admitted to the New York bar on July 16, 2020, but in 2019 and 2020, according to your Senate questionnaire, you held yourself out as counsel for the Democrats on this very committee. You used this title, but you were not licensed to practice law. Counsel is a term reserved for lawyers, licensed lawyers. And in Wyoming, a person who in any manner holds themselves as competent to practice law without a license to do so is guilty of unauthorized practice of law. I believe the law in the District of Columbia where you held yourself out is similar. Do you believe it is appropriate for non-lawyers to claim the title of counsel?
Congressman, when I had the honor to work for this committee, I complied with all of the document requests that the HR folks requested, including documentation about the fact
When
that
I checked your registration status this morning, I learned that you are not in good standing with the New York bar. Your license is listed as delinquent, which means you have failed to file your biennial registrations, and it means that you have not been paying your bar dues, completing your continuing legal education, and maintaining your law license. I believe it's shown on the screen. It also means you're subject to referral for disciplinary action. I find this situation to be stunning and a reflection on your ethics. With that, I yield back.
Lady yields back. The chair now recognizes the ranking member from New York for 5 minutes.
Now that we have watched the full exchange, let's be very clear about what happened here, because the spin is already starting. Representative Harriet Hageman laid out a direct contradiction between Lina Khan's sworn testimony and the ethics guidance coming from the FTC's own designated agency ethics official. This was not speculation or opinion. It was based on dates, documents, and statements already made to Congress. Lina Khan previously told lawmakers there were no instances where she failed to follow ethics advice. Then a leaked ethics memorandum surfaced recommending recusal to avoid even the appearance of partiality. That alone deserved a straight answer. But instead of yes or no, we got deflection. Harriet Hageman repeatedly asked a simple question. Did the oral advice Lina Khan claims she received differ from what was written in the ethics memorandum? That question was never answered. Saying there was no financial conflict does not answer whether ethics advice was followed. Ethics standards for federal officials are higher than just financial interest, and Harriet Hageman correctly pointed that out. Even if recusal was not legally required, it was clearly recommended. Harriet Hageman was not accusing Lina Khan of committing a crime. She was questioning judgment, honesty, and candor before Congress, and those are fair questions in an oversight hearing. Then the focus shifted to professional responsibility, and this is where the moment became even more serious. According to Harriet Hageman, Lina Khan held herself out as counsel for Democrats on this committee before being licensed to practice law. That is not a casual title. In many jurisdictions, that designation is tied directly to bar membership. And then came the most serious allegation of the hearing. Harriet Hageman stated that Lina Khan's New York law license is currently listed as delinquent. A delinquent license is not a minor paperwork issue. It means required obligations have not been met and can lead to disciplinary action. For someone who leads an agency that enforces rules and compliance, that raises serious credibility concerns. What stood out to me most was Harriet Hageman's approach. She was calm, direct, and clearly frustrated by the refusal to give clear answers. When she described Lina Khan's written response as lacking honesty and candor, that assessment matched what we saw in real time. You cannot demand strict compliance from the public while avoiding accountability yourself. Whether you agree with Harriet Hageman politically or not, this is what oversight is supposed to look like. Tough questions, evidence on the record, and no free passes. If this hearing made you uncomfortable, that might be the point. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Harriet Hageman right to press this hard, or do you think Lina deserved more leeway? This is Congress Lens. I'm Audrey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.